Nightmare of the Wolf is an animated Witcher spin-off movie that is now streaming on Netflix. In fact, I think it's been streaming on Netflix for about a week now. This film was directed by Han Kwamde II. Some of the voice talent, you've got Theo James, Laura Pulver, and then there's this one guy whose name I did remember right before I turned on the camera, but in typical fashion, I forgot it again. But he plays a character named Deglin in the movie. Nightmare of the Wolf is a spin-off of The Witcher. Like I said, The Witcher itself is inspired by The Witcher books, which is a series of dark fantasy novels. And of course, that spawned a huge game that everybody should remember, The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt or whatever. This spin-off focuses on the origin story of Vesemir. Vesemir is a Witcher from the book who serves as the mentor and the teacher to Geralt, who is the main protagonist of The Witcher. This movie takes you back in time. It shows you Vesemir, it shows you how he came up, it shows you some of the issues that start to arise when he becomes a full-grown Witcher. There is something that emerges that threatens not only the livelihood and the lives of the Witchers, but also everyone in this land, and so Vesemir kind of has to decide to not kill for money, and he has to try to decide to kill for something bigger than himself. I'm a big fan of The Witcher. I love the game, I love the series with Henry Cavill as Geralt, and I was excited to see a spin-off that takes place in that world. I've also just started getting into the books. I've read like the first book and like half of the second one, so I'm not as well versed on the Witcher lore as I should be, but trust me, by the end of the year, I'm pretty sure I'll at least be done with the second book, a prequel that focuses on Vesemir. So obviously you're looking for a lot of backstory on him, like where he came from, how did he become a Witcher. What I like about the story that they're telling in this movie is that they also flesh out the Witchers in general. They make you further understand what it means to be a Witcher, like their transformation, some of the trials that they have to go through in order to become these monster hunters, these physically enhanced monster hunters. Some of the more fascinating parts of this movie involve Vesemir as a kid, where you get to see how he came up and what his thoughts and hopes and dreams were, and then you get to see how he and other kids were inducted into this process to become Witchers. The way that this movie expands the world of the Witchers builds on what we already know. But there was one part in particular involving the kids and involving the flashbacks with Vesemir that I was just like, I was shook, I'm not gonna lie. You'll know the part when you see it, trust me. Vesemir in this movie is such a cocky, arrogant shit, and he's really, really fun to watch. It's like he's the most badass Witcher who ever existed, and he knows the shit, so he's constantly condescending to like every single person he talks to in the movie. There's something endearing about it, there's something entertaining about it, especially when you find out about his past and you know where he comes from and why he feels the way he feels. Interesting to see the spotlight on Vesemir and see his personality and how different it is juxtaposed to Geralt, who is the main character, the main protagonist of The Witcher. Like, he's so different from Geralt. Like, if you watch this movie and then you go and you watch The Witcher and you see Henry Cavill's portrayal of The Witcher, of Geralt, you'll see how different it is and you'll be like, holy fuck. And I love its depiction of magic and of the monsters that show up here. There is some tremendous animation and amazing action sequences here. Incredibly fluid and beautifully drawn action sequences that, like I said, do emphasize the more violent aspects of monster fighting, of magic and stuff like that. The musical score, the soundtrack for this thing, I think it was composed by Brian De Oliveira. I'm not sure if that's his name. I'm probably wrong. Please correct me as usual if I am. I thought the music slapped for this thing. I thought the soundtrack, there was some epic shit musically that was going on all throughout this movie. I think that this movie serves as a great companion piece to these other forms of Witcher media. I do think that there are some parts in the second part of the film that slow down a little bit, where you could definitely notice the pacing a little bit. There's a non-linear aspect to the storytelling here, and it does cause some parts of the story to drag. Sometimes you can definitely feel in the pacing, even though this is not a very long movie, it sometimes feels longer than it is because of how many times they jump back and forth. When it comes to the main villain in this movie, it's very hard to connect to this villain's motivations, because throughout the entire movie, you're told about this person's motivations and what they want. You understand that they want this accomplished, but you don't understand why. Like the 11th hour of the movie, they kind of reveal why this character feels the way they feel, and unfortunately you just don't give a shit at that point of the movie because they've spent the entire movie not really stressing about the why of it. The motivation could have used a little bit more context earlier in the film to really justify it and make you care. If you're a fan of The Witcher, if you're a fan of dark fantasy stuff, if you're a fan of anime, I highly recommend you check out Nightmare of the Wolf. It's definitely going to be worth your time. Nightmare of the Wolf was an excellent watch on Netflix and a great fit into the Witcher universe. I'm going to leave this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Steel. What did you think about it? Give me your thoughts on the movie in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.